Hello again. Today we're studying lesson 7.4 on scales. Okay, so I'm in your book again today. I'm going to use those examples if you want to follow along, or you may want to just watch what I'm doing and then go back and review the examples for yourself. Okay, scales, scale drawings. Think about that. I know you've done that in the past. Um, Let me just go through the definitions of those today. The scale for a drawing or a map is the ratio of the drawing's length to the actual length. Um, Maybe you've used this in history or geography where you have a scale drawing. If we were to do a scale drawing of our campus at school, you would not be able to make it the actual distance that it is. You wouldn't have a piece of paper big enough to do that. Okay, so a scale drawing scales it down to a size that you can actually do. Okay, so a scale drawing is a drawing in which all the lengths are at the same scale or ratio to the actual length of the object. Okay, so let's go through a few examples. On example 1 at the bottom of page 281, um, and it gives you kind of a little story problem there right above example 1. It says in the scale drawing below, the scale is 1 centimeter to 5 meters. So I'm going to make that a fraction. Okay, it's 1 centimeter to 5 meters. Okay, and then it says this, it says you can set up a proportion, think about that, it's fractions, and use the property of proportions. The product of the extremes equals the product of the means to find the length of the bridge in the drawing when the actual length is 27 meters. Okay, so here's our 27 meters. You say, well, now why does the 27 go on the bottom part of the fraction? Because meters to meters. Okay, centimeters to centimeters. Okay, now you just you solve it using a proportion. So remember, we take 27 times 1 is 27, right? So then we'll do 27 divided by our 5, and that'll give us our answer here. So 5 goes into 27 5 times. 5 times 5, 25. Subtract, we'll get 2. Now, we could make that a fraction and do 2/5. And I would accept that if you did 5 and 2/5. But I want to make that 2/5 a decimal. And so I want you to remember how to do that. Okay, to make it a decimal, see, we would have our 5 point, and whatever's going to be here would be a tenth. So we've got to get that to a tenth, we have to find what our missing numerator is here. Okay, so 5 times 2 is 10, 2 times 2 is 4. So it would be, see, 4 tenths. And how do you write 4 tenths? 0.4. Okay, so our answer there would be 5.4 centimeters. Okay, so that's example 1. All right. Okay, if you turn the page to page 282, we're going to look at example 2 here. Okay. Okay, it says the distance between 2 towns on a map is 3.6 centimeters. Okay, now here it tells us a scale, and we want to make that into a fraction. The scale on the map is 2 centimeters to 15 kilometers. Okay, and it says what's the actual distance between the 2 towns? Well, it said the distance between the 2 towns was 3.6 centimeters. Okay, so we had to write that as the top part of the fraction here because centimeters to centimeters. Okay, now we're trying to find our missing denominator here. So here we would do 15 times 3.6. All right, 15 times our 3.6. Now we don't have any decimals here, 1 here for a total of 1. So 54. So now we have our 54. Our 54 divided by our 2 will give us this answer. Okay, so our answer would be 27 kilometers. Okay, so 27 kilometers. Okay, it's not that hard. Okay, all right, just plug in your numbers for your proportions. Okay, let's do one more. Example 3 on page 282. Find the distance from Carville to Danville. Okay, you say, well, it's not telling me the scale. Well, there's actually a picture here in example 3 that shows you what the scale is. It says the scale is 2 centimeters to 25 kilometers. Okay, 2 centimeters to 25 kilometers. And then it says find the distance from Carville to Danville. Well, you've got to look at the drawing. You got to look at the scale drawing there. From Carville to Danville, it says it's 5 centimeters. Okay, so we have to put our 5 centimeters there. Okay, and so again, to find your answer here, you're going to have to take 25 times 5. So 25 times our 5 is 125. So then we'll take our 125 and we'll divide it by our 2 to give us the answer here. Okay, 2 goes into 12 6 times. 2 times 6 is 12. Subtract, we get 0. Bring down our next number. 2 goes into 5 2 times. 2 times 2 is 4. And 5 minus 4 is 1. So your answer there would be 62 and a half kilometers. And again, if you want to make this into a decimal, it would end up being 62.5. Okay? I would accept either answer, either way, unless it specifically tells you to write it as a decimal. Okay? All right, do skill check 1 and send me your answers.